Yoma 2a. Mishnah. 7 days before the Day of Atonement, the high priest was removed from his house to the cell of the counselors, and another priest was prepared to take his place in case anything happened to him that would unfit him for the service. Rabbi Judah said, also another wife was prepared for him in case his wife should die. For it is written, and he shall make atonement for himself and for his house. His house? That means his wife. They said to him, if so, there would be no end to the matter. Ein l'davar sof. Gemara says, we learned elsewhere, 7 days before the burning of the red heifer, the priest who was to burn the heifer was removed from his house to the cell in the northeastern corner before the birah. It was called the cell of the stone chamber. And why was it called the cell of the stone chamber? Because all its functions in connection with the red heifer had to be performed only in vessels made of either cobblestone, stone, or earthenware. What was the reason for that restriction? Since a Teful Yom was permitted to perform the ceremony of a heifer, as we have learned, they deliberately rendered the priest ritually impure to remove a false notion from the minds of the Sadducees, who used to say, only by those on whom the sun has set could it be performed. The rabbis ordained that only vessels made of cobblestones, stone, or earthenware, which are immune to impurity, should be used in connection with the heifer, lest the ceremony thereof be treated slightly. Why was the ceremony performed in the northeastern corner? Since the heifer was a sin offering, and a sin offering had to be sacrificed in the northern corner. Whereas, on the other hand, it is written about the heifer towards the front of the tent of meeting. The rabbis ordained for the heifer a cell in the northeastern corner, so that the special importance of this ceremony be clearly recognized. What is birah? Rabbi Bar Chana said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, there was a place on the Temple Mount called Birah. Reish Lakish said the whole sanctuary is called Birah, as it is written, and to build the Birah for which I have made provision. Whence is it proved that it is necessary to remove the priest from his house? Rav Ben Yumi Bar Chilkiah said in the name of Rav Hasia Bar Idi, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, the text reads, as hath been done this day. So the Lord commanded to make atonement for you. The work la'asoth, to do, refers to the manner of the red heifer. The words lechaper alechem, to make atonement for you, refers to the work of the Day of Atonement. Is it obvious that the whole of this text could not be taken as referring to the heifer because of the words to atone, and the heifer has nothing to do with atonement? But let us assume that the whole text refers to the Day of Atonement. They said in answer to the suggestion, one may infer from the fact that the identical expression tzivah, he commanded, is used. Here it is written the Lord tzivah, commanded to do. And there it is written, this is the statute of the law which the Lord tzivah, he has commanded. Just as in the latter passage, tzivah refers to the heifer, so does it in the former refer to the heifer. And just as the removal of the priest is enjoined in the one, so must the removal of the priest apply to the other. B. But perhaps say that the word tzivah, he commanded, has reference to the word tzivah, which occurs in connection with the Day of Atonement, since the verse reads, and he did as the Lord tzivah, commanded Moses. One may infer from the word tzivah, used before conformity, for another case in which tzivah is used also before conformity, but one may not infer tzivah is used before conformity for tzivah used after conformity. But perhaps tzivah has reference to sacrifices, for it is written, on the day when the Lord tzawotho commanded the children of Israel, one may fitly infer tziwa from tziwa, but one may not infer zawotho from tziwa. But what does it matter? Did not the school of Rabbi Ishmael teach in the verse, the priest shall return, or the priest shall come in? Returning and coming in mean one and the same thing. These words of the school of Rabbi Ishmael apply only when there is no identical word. But where such a similar word is used, the inference may be made only on the basis of absolute identity of expression. We stated above the word lechaper, to atone, has reference to the Day of Atonement. May it not refer also to atonement resulting from a sacrifice? How could we know which priest would happen to perform the sacrifice so that he would have to be removed from his house? But why should we not really postulate such a separation for the whole priestly division? It is proper to make inference from something for which a definite time is appointed for something which similarly is fixed for a definite time. That excludes any inference from the consecration of the priest, an annual event to sacrifices which are offered up every day. Perhaps the references to the 3 festivals. One may infer something which takes place but once a year from something else which took place but once a year. But inference for these festivals is excluded since they do not take place but once a year. Perhaps the reference is to one festival, and if you would answer by saying, we would not know to which it has reference, it would be either the festival of Passover, which Scripture always mentions, as the first of the 3, or the feast of Sukkoth, because a great number of commandments apply to it. The point is, however, that you may infer the law of the priest's removal from his house for 7 days before the service which he is to perform. Priest's removal for 7 days for the service of 1 day. Yet perhaps the reference is to the 8th day, because there would be a service of only 1 day. One may infer laws concerning a day, which is not immediately preceded by another festival, sanctity from another day, which similarly is not preceded by another festival sanctity. But one may not infer for a day preceded by a festival sanctity from a day unpreceded by such. But even if the inference by analogy be unjustified, is there no legitimate conclusion, a minori ad magis, if a day unpreceded by another festival sanctity requires for the officiating priest a 7-day removal from his family? How much more should a day preceded by another festival sanctity require it? Rabbi Maheshia answered, Scripture expressly states, this day. That means, on a day like this. Rav Ashi said, could there be any festival, the major part of which would require no removal of the priest, while its attachment would require it? And even according to one who holds that the 8th day is not a mere attachment to Sukkoth, but an independent festival day that applies only to